Okay, welcome one and all once again. We are going to be playing 8 field mono red mid range once again. And yes, thank you. Please smash that like button. There's been a lot of smashing of the like button in my last videos, and I think it's causing the channel to grow enormously. I can't thank you all enough. Please, it's gonna be a crazy time. The more likes we can gather, we can harness more crazy energy, just like Goku when he's making the Spirit Bomb. You know, it's going to be an unstoppable Spirit Bomb of craziness. And please subscribe to. Actually, the amount of people subscribing has also been insane. That will make it more powerful as well. In any case, this is a man. You know, it's just crazy to think that sometimes if you just don't try something, you never know. I never would have thought that playing 12 brown lands and only 12 red sources was actually doable in a deck that has multiple, spells that you kind of need 2 red mana for, and they're pretty essential to the deck. Seasoned Pyromancer and Fury. I mean Fury, true enough, you can pitch it, you can evoke it, so like it's not necessarily unplayable if you can't hardcast it with 2 red. But like Seasoned Pyromancer is like very critical that you have 2 red mana for it, but it just turns out that the way the deck plays out, it ends up being okay. Well, in any case, yeah, so the idea here is we're just kind of leaning more into the strip mine effects. And if you also want to see there's another MTG content creator play this deck recently, shout out to Marin Moon from Marin MTG. She didn't know the name of my channel, but I commented, and you'll see my comment there as well. But she actually has a very enjoyable run through of several games. I think pretty much using this exact 75, but as you've probably seen it in the title, this one was a trophy. I'm going to be going over the games. I'm going to be analyzing them, but I'm super hyped. I'm super hyped about this new direction to take mono red mid range. Now, I'm not abandoning Obosh, but I think this is fundamentally where the 2 versions of mono red mid range that I'm going to be playing are going to branch off. I think I'm going to have an Obosh version, which is going to lean more heavily on just sort of like pure, a little bit more pure mid ranginess. It's gonna be more of a dedicated mid range deck. And then I think this non-Obosh version is going to be more of a dedicated Ponza type strategy. And I actually think that Urza Saga is the perfect, that an Urza Saga build, like playing Urza Saga rather in a Ponza build, is the way to go. And the reason why is that, when you think about it, one of the best advantages to Urza Saga, I find, isn't actually creating the tokens, although it can be good, but the format fundamentally is prepared for the tokens, I find, more so than it is prepared for the Urza Saga itself. And it's true, they could play like Moon Effects, Alpine Moon, they can play Spreading Seas. I mean, there are cards that can make Urza Saga feel a little lackluster by hitting Urza Saga itself, but I find that while you do get hit by those occasionally, for the most part, people like a lot of cards that incidentally hit the tokens, like Teferi, which of course is just pretty good on its own. Um, Dress Down, I find to be one of the biggest. The thing about Dress Down is that it's also pretty good because it really makes you hesitate to make too many tokens because it's kind of a tempo blowout. And cards like that kind of make you think, and it can kind of drain the effectiveness of a card even when they don't know if you have it, are pretty good. So I find that, I mean, there's probably more, yeah, good old engineer explosive, stuff like that. Um, I find that the format has a lot of answers to the tokens, but a lot of times with Urza Saga, what we're going to be doing is we're not even going to be making tokens. Sometimes we do, but a lot of times we're not even going to be making tokens. We're going to be like, okay, we can go grab Pyrite Spellbomb, but the main number one reason for playing Urza Saga in this deck is to go and pull more Mishra research desks out of our library, because the amount of digging that this card can do is absolutely insane. The fact that we can flash it back too is just gravy on top. We can even keep 1 land hands sometimes. I've done that many times in the past. Sometimes I've been punished. Sometimes I've gone on to have amazing hands after this hits my 2nd land drop. But at the end of the day, there's just few other cards that can do as much for so little mana, at least up front. Yes, unearthing it costs a good amount of mana, but like the reality is for 2 mana, being able to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, you know, with a backside and with being able to get value out of your graveyard if you pitch it or something, it's pretty good, at least in this deck. Plus it juices the Urza tokens. Um, but yeah, now's a good opportunity, I guess, for me to go over some of these card choices because if you see Marin's video, she has questions about some of these card choices. Although she definitely loved the deck overall, but I'm going to explain, I think, some of the ones that she was least sure about. So one of them is Pyrite Spellbomb, and while I will admit Pyrite Spellbomb is not exactly one of the most exciting cards in at least the initial 60 in the main deck. This is actually here primarily for a few key reasons. The first number one reason is that I feel like this has to be somewhere in the 75 because we really want to be able to deal with pro-red creatures, ideally on the spot. Sometimes against burn, you know, the thing about burn is it's not like the worst matchup ever, although it's kind of it's one of our quote unquote bad matchups, although it's probably one of the most winnable of our bad matchups. And one of the ways that we oftentimes lose is if they stick an early core Firewalker in games 2 and 3. If that even connects a couple times, it's pretty much over. The life gain isn't as much what concerns us, but sometimes that can buy them another turn. It also leads to a win. The bottom line is the sooner we can get a Sanctifying Back or Core Firewalker off the battlefield against Burn, the more likely we can steal some games against them. And especially like against Burn, this can turn a card like Core Firewalker from one of the best cards in their opening hand to one of the worst cards because it deals no damage. It's just it's almost like a dead card, and we still get to develop. Um, but so yeah, but also Hammer Time. You know, sometimes if they just drop a Sanctifier and back, you know, and then turn three drop like Sigarda's Aid into like double hammer, then you're just screwed. There's just nothing you can do. It's just game over. Or they drop Sigarda's Aid turn one, turn two, Sanctify and back, turn three, just go ham. Like you know, and while it is true that they can play around this to some extent by like playing a Sigarda's Aid, like and then waiting until turn three to play Core Firewalker, try to hold up a hammer or two, you know, to attach. Like the bottom line is that still buys you one more turn, and the more turns that you get, the more you could have like multiple spell bombs, the more chance you could like make a token with Urza Saga to buy yourself more time. I mean, at least until I mean, granted in game one, if you don't have access to Ratchet Bomb, it may all be for naught anyway. But especially like this interaction still is valid in games two and three, maybe even more so. And when you have Ratchet Bomb that you can play into, the more turns you can buy with Pyrite Spellbomb, the better. Um, if we were playing Blaststone, then that would be even more pertinent. So this take applies equally, if not even more so, to the other versions that play Blaststone in them. But at the end of the day, it also just is sometimes you just need to go get creature removal. Sometimes they got a creature running around that you just have to deal with. You know, I think Ragavan is a good example of that. Probably the foremost example. I mean, sure, like you could try to hit one with Research Desk, but if you're just getting hammered by Ragavan and it looks like the rest of your hand might be able to, you know, make a comeback, but you're not going to be able to do that if Ragavan keeps hammering you. Sometimes, you know, just grabbing a Pyrite Spellbomb can be the way to go. And on top of that, the number of times that I end up picking my opponent off when they're at like 2 or 4 life or something, and then I know what this card finishes ticking up and sacrificing, I'm going to go be able to get a Pyrite Spellbomb to finish them off. It's more relevant than it looks. So I'd say the first reason is that it's got to be somewhere in the 75, and I've got it, and actually I find that it's the most playable. It's the most playable here in the main deck because if you think about it, what other cards in the sideboard? I don't like Ratchet Bomb in the main deck because I don't know what number to keep it on until I see a little bit more of their deck in game one. You know, Flame Blitz is technically main deckable because of cycling. I have done it sometimes, but I just find that in like playing 2 mana and not being able to play it in installments is more clunky. When they're not playing Planeswalkers, you know, yeah, just cycling it is a little more clunky, and also it doesn't juice the Urza Saga tokens, and you can't play it on turn one, so sometimes you have no turn one play, and you just end up wasting a mana on turn one that you couldn't otherwise do anything with. Probably the biggest candidate for a card that we could play in the main deck instead of Relic is Relic of Progenitus. I mean, instead of Spellbomb. I am still of the opinion, at least in this build, Pyrite Spellbomb is a little bit better. And one of the main reasons is that Relic of Progenitus sometimes jukes us with our own Unholy Heat. Sometimes we have to exile our own research desks. So it's a little bit of a non-bow. that wouldn't be the biggest issue, but the problem is just that um the problem is I just feel like Pyrite Spellbomb we can it's something that we have to play in the 75, and I just feel like it kind of is slightly better than Relic. I guess there's not like an intrinsic problem with playing Relic in the main deck, but you also have to factor in that like the deck needs a certain critical mass of removal too. I mean, it could, I could be wrong. Relic could be a better uh, card in this slot, and I think out of all the card choices, um, that you all have my permission to I mean, you always have my permission to disagree with me, but I think that one of the areas where I would fault you the least, well, not that I'd fault you at all, but one of the areas, let's just put it this way, yeah, experimenting putting Relic in the main is probably not a bad idea if you guys want to pick up the deck. If you find more success with that, great. But I found a good amount of success so far with Pyrite Spellbomb, and so that's what I'm gonna be sticking with for now. Um, what other cards did Marion question? I think she really pretty much liked the rest of the deck from what I remember. Um, One thing I've actually found out in subsequent testing, we don't actually need 12 mountains. We can actually get away with playing 8, and then we can play like Shatter Skull Smashing or Den of the Bugbear or something. I would kind of like to play Shatter Skull Smashing, and actually I do in more recent versions of this deck. And that's one of the only I made a few changes. I'll try to go over them in the post league since this league, but this is pretty much the DNA. I mean, this is very close. I mean, look, and I trophied with it, so who knows? Maybe this is even more optimal at the end of the day. But I do think that Shatter Skull Smashing gives you a little bit extra utility for a lot less downside. Um, but yeah, what's there to say? Yeah, the rest of the deck's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, we're playing the best removal that Red has to offer. Um, these 3 cards really are kind of like the backbone. Well, actually, these 4, because Fury's actually, I think, becoming backbone too. But like Flame Slash, Lightning Bolt, and Unholy Heat, Fury, so efficient. They can deal with most creatures, and they can even deal with they can even deal with Planeswalkers. Um, yeah, and of course, Seasoned Pyromancer. If you watch me long enough, then you know how unquestionable this card really is. And yeah, actually, I tried playing a Giganta build again, and it is actually just literally insane just how like this is the one card that if you want to try to budgetize this deck, I would like you don't need Ragavan. As you can see, I don't even have I actually forgot to mention I don't even have Ragavan on the 75 anymore. As where I'm at right now, I'm of the opinion that I don't think Ragavan is where we want to be in any card in the 75 main or sideboard anymore. Believe it or not. Now, does that mean I'm going to sell my Ragavans? Not yet, but believe it or not, I'm actually kind of considering selling my Ragavans. I don't see it getting banned, but I would ideally like to make some of the money back that I spent on those if it does get banned before it gets banned. I doubt it would get banned, but I mean, how crazy would that be if I don't even find Ragavan to be even good in my deck anymore and it gets banned? It just goes to show you that a card could be busted in certain contexts and in certain decks, but in other decks not so much. But anyway, um, I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly there. It could just be the wrong decision. The fact that we're cutting it could just show that it just doesn't need to be banned, and therefore I can hold on to it. But then paradoxically, yeah, whatever. Um, yeah, maybe I've talked long enough. Oh yeah, one more card to mention. Yes, Marin actually mentioned Elixir of Immortality. What's the point? So it's very simple. Obviously, the most obvious answer is that this is good against burn. But then the question arises, like, what advantages does this have over other life gain effects? And the answer is actually more subtle than you might think. And the main reason why I've been liking Elixir of Immortality in the burn matchup is that the 2 most common anti-hate that burn decks tend to play are Skullcrack and shattering what's it called, Smash to Smithereens. It's actually particularly Smash to Smithereens that I'm kind of concerned about, because one of the things I found about what's that card called, Shadow Spear, is that it's just such a shitting it's just a sitting duck to smash to smithereens. Like they can just smash the spear itself at any time that they want, and we also take 3 damage if it's attached to an Urza Saga token, which is one of the more common configurations they can just hit the Urza Saga token. If that's our only creature, that's a huge tempo swing. Sometimes even if we still have the Spear laying around, it's still just going to be game over on the spot, because if we can't, if that's our only creature, and then we not only have to play another creature the next, we don't have any hasted creatures anymore, and then like actually equip it, and just, oh man, it's just so bad. But Elixir of Immortality, like this, as long as you make sure that you have the 2 mana open by the time Urza Saga goes to the graveyard and fetches this, there's actually no opportunity that they have to be able to actually nix this thing before it just goes away and gains 5 life. So this actually plays around Smash the Smithereens quite nicely, and that's the #1 hate that I find they bring against us in somewhat significant numbers in games 2 and 3. And why wouldn't they, especially if they see Urza Saga? You got to factor that in when you factor in hate cards that you want to bring in against your opponent, is especially against decks like Burn, where you know they're going to try to anticipate your hate, and they're going to try to bring hate for your hate. So having hate that doesn't necessarily get hit by their anti-hate can actually be kind of sometimes more valuable than actually having objectively stronger hate, like Shadow Spear, for example. I mean, is this perfect? Does this swing the Burn matchup? No, but not by any means. But sometimes a card that gives you a solid edge is better than a card that completely swings it. If that card that gives you a solid, I don't want to say edge, but gives you like a solid boost to your win percentage, can still end up being better if it's less vulnerable to anti-hate. And that's basically the moral of the story with Elixir of Immortality. And yes, the fact that it hits mill is part of the calculation to play this as well. Yeah, I mean, because to be honest, if this card didn't hit mill as well, I would probably play Underworld Cookbook. Yeah. I'm sure you all know Underworld Cookbook, but I actually find that this card is pretty gas against Burn. Just be, unlimited life gain. It's kind of like an Elixir of Immortality, except that it can keep kind of generating more elixir effects. Yeah, but I mean, of course, this is a sitting duck for Smash the Smithereens. Unlike Elixir of Immortality, it doesn't just go away. But unlike Shadow Spear, you still get the token and you still get 3 life most likely. So at least you break even. Whereas with Shadow Spear, you just take 3 damage and you just ended up setting yourself behind. So I would probably play Cookbook instead of this if it wasn't for mill. But the fact that this can also help shore up the mill matchup, which is definitely one of our not great matchups. Any help we can get is appreciated, and so that factors in as well. Oh yeah, and by the way, this gets shuffled in after Urza Saga, so that means if you have another Urza Saga that's going to pop a turn or 2 down the road, you'll be able to fetch this out again. And I've actually activated this, more than once in more games than you might think. Not necessarily like it happens every game, but it happens not infrequently. It's not, and that's if you gain 10 life with this thing, it's pretty much kind of over, I think. Yeah, Brittle Effigy. I don't think Marin questioned this one, but this is primarily for Murktide. I think probably if you meditate on this for long enough, you probably intuit that yourself. But yeah, it's for 2 reasons. It's for Murktide and it's for Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. Elish Norn in particular, like it's 7 toughness, so even Unholy Heat doesn't one-shot it. Unholy Heat, though, as long as we have Delirium, does make it fairly doable to double spell it. But sometimes you don't have double spell, and obviously if you can clean answer it with 1 card, that's better than having used 2. So yeah, and if Elish Norn sticks more than 1 turn, oftentimes that's enough to just bury you in card advantage, plus prevent all your cards from doing their thing. I found that Elish Norn at first was quite a nightmare, but with actually that's one of the main reasons I moved to playing Unholy Heat, because I'm just like, dude, I gotta have an answer for this. And it turns out that there was just a good card that everybody was playing already that that helped out a lot. But that's anyway. But Brittle Effigy does as well. There's other corner cases too, like you can actually kill Emrakul with this for what it's worth. Oh yeah, Amulet Titan. This actually kills all their big fatties. And hey, if they're paying 6 and we're paying 4, even though this is expensive, we still end up paying less mana to them for what it's worth. And yeah, I mean, I actually think it should be intuitive enough where this card is good actually. And while this card is kind of the definition of a fair card, it also is just kind of this effect that we don't necessarily get a lot of in red. So it's just kind of a good thing to have in the sideboard for when it comes up and we kind of need it. Anyway, maybe we'll get into the games. Hope this analysis of the deck was helpful. And yeah, see you over there. And please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Yeah, all right, see you over there. Okay, All right, match one, game one. Okay, I think without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I think this opening hand, yeah, this was a good one. So I think we're gonna be keeping this one, and yeah, there's not much more to say about it. It's just a cantrips. Yeah, we could end up getting color screwed on 2 mana by turn 3, but you know, I've actually found generally that's fine. We can just Demolition Field. As long as we get to 3 mana, all we have to do is crack one of our Demolition Field. There's so many non-basic lands. Like, you know, ironically enough, if there was so many basics floating around that our opponents didn't even have like that many non-basics, there would be consideration to not play this because actually being able to cash this in just for a basic, even without necessarily factoring color screwing or taking away utility from them, is just so good because it just means that there's a limit to how much we get color screwed off of this card. But anyway, um, yeah, so. Yep, of course we didn't mulligan, because why would we? Yeah, we lead on Research Desk. Now, there is some consideration, actually, to not playing Research Desk here, and that is because they could play Prismatic Ending. Still don't find that super common enough to always indicate that I won't do this. I've actually, one thing I have been doing more lately is actually I've been leading off on like a Demolition Field to play this, because given the makeup of this hand, actually, one way I might have played differently, from what I've kind of intuited since here, is that where it's like pretty obvious that I'm going to be cracking this on the very next turn. You know, we'll kind of want to be cracking it off a colorless land, but you know, I doubt that makes a difference here, but it could, and that is something to just factor in. So we're going to play another Research Desk, and you see what we ended up doing. We did end up cracking this off of a colorless land. So it's worth noting that if we hit, for example, a Den of the Bugbear, then we could have actually been in more of a pickle than we needed to be, and which could actually have a cascading effect on you know, on how the whole rest of the game plays out. Of course, it turns out we didn't get Den of the Bugbear, but think about it right there. If I have to play the Demolition Field, crack it off the field, and then I get Den, Den comes into play tapped next turn, and so I can't actually activate the field. Um, yeah. Whereas if I played Demolition Field on turn 1, cracked it off of that, then if I got a Bugbear, I could have played that as my second land drop right there and then. So that's an interesting critique that I have going back here, and um, yeah, you know, this is one of the things, man. Let me tell you, if you wanna maximize your win percentage with this deck, and this is actually true for any mid range deck. Like a lot of times, how you sequence your mana actually can have a cascading effect on how the rest of the game plays, and often sometimes that can actually come down to where you lost the game. It's you know, and that's the thing. Like I think Reed Duke has said about Jund is when every tiny decision adds up, it's important that you be critical of every decision you make, no matter how small it might seem. Um, we oftentimes critique the big things that happen at the end of the game and what we might have done the turn before, but sometimes like what you could have done many turns ago is just as important, if not more so. So okay, what we are going to be, and thankfully it turns out here we weren't punished for it, but could have been a disaster. So I'm pretty sure the game plan here is we've got to hit this Urza Saga, or we're just going to lose because they're going to get an amulet and then just stomp us with Titan. Um, Unfortunately, we don't have a Flame Slash, but I think we're probably going to pitch the Fury to hit the Dryad. I think we have to. It's just a little too brutal if we don't. I think we're going to pitch Lightning Bolt. Seasoned Pyromancer is too solid of card advantage, plus pitching it means we don't get access to the tokens. Because Unholy Heat can one-shot a Titan, or a Dryad for that matter, any number of things. So yeah, there we go. That's the play. Just pretty obvious in my humble opinion. So I think we're gonna have to play this Fable, even though they could play a Titan next turn. Man, hitting these things is so good off of Amulet Titan. Believe it or not, I've actually found that with you know 8 field effects and 4 Cleansing Wildfires, I've actually had a winning win percentage against Amulet Titan. Believe it or not. It still might not be as good as having actual mages, but we still actually might have even if ever so slightly positive matchup, you know, overall, as long as we have these 8 field effects. So there's that. And thankfully they don't have Titan, otherwise presumably they would have played it. So if we can get our attack off, which I don't see why we couldn't, yeah. So Pyrite Spellbomb was a fairly obvious pitch because you know, we were probably just gonna end up cycling that anyway. Now, Lightning Bolt we could have held on to, but you know, at the end of the day, what we're really looking for in this matchup is just to get as many of these field effects as we possibly can and Cleansing Wildfires. So we're just, we're always just digging for that. And I think with the game plan is we're going to try to hit both Urza Saga and Sanctuary. And they might have run out of, they ran out of basic force. Sometimes they play 3, sometimes they play 4. They might have the fourth force in their hand, but if they only play 3 man, it can be rough. And once we get the Reflection of Kiki Jiki game going, it can be pretty. Oh yeah, we flashed up Bish's desk. I think the main reason why is because we want to wait for a better pitch to play Seasoned Pyromancer. So we want to hold on to this Unholy Heat. If they actually start dropping Titans, it's the main thing. Yeah, and it's kind of just looking like we're gonna strip mine them out, most likely. Oh, that's gonna affect our Unholy Heat, but we actually drew a Fury, which is nice, and we can play this. Yeah, so we can't attack with Fury this turn, but copying it at end of turn and attacking for 12 is probably going to be good enough. Oh no, well, that was a little unexpected, but still okay. Friction Metamorph, I forgot about that one. But yeah, but we can start copying our Seasoned Pyromancer. Yep, boom, boom. Yeah, we'll discard one of our Unholy Heats. It's unfortunate, but okay. I don't want to call it too early, but I think we got this one. Yeah, before that exiles our graveyard, we're gonna Unholy Heat. Man, Unholy Heat. It's hard to believe that there was a time I didn't play that. I mean, you'd think the fact that everybody else plays it would show us, but we can just be obtuse like that sometimes, man. It is worth considering that they're not quite dead yet, but even if they have Titan without an amulet, they need like 2 amulets to like one-shot me, and even then, yeah. Anyway, alrighty, let's go to the next one. But yeah, that was a good clean game. Their hand was a little clunky, but that you'd be surprised. No, actually, you know what? Let's actually call a spade a spade. The number one reason that they lost this one, I'm not saying that we couldn't have won otherwise, but we might not have been able to. But actually, let's be clear about this. The main reason they lost this one is they actually just didn't have any Titans. But certainly hitting their bounce lands and stuff also didn't help them. Anyway, especially since we may have messed with their plan for because think about it, they didn't have double blue for Tolaria West. Well, I guess they could tap Tolaria West to itself before it gets bounced. Well, maybe they didn't have this until later. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. All right, match 1, game 2. Let's see how we sideboarded in this one. So okay, what was the sideboard again? So I remember it was Relics. I remember it was Flame Blitz and Ratchet Bombs. So it looks like we took out the Relics for Ratchet Bombs. We still got 2 Ratchet Bombs in here. Oh yeah. So we brought in 3 Ratchet Bombs and 1 Elixir of Immortality because of course Elixir of Immortality. Also, sometimes it can be our only way to deal with Cultivator Colossus. Although Cultivator Colossus, if we keep their lands under control, shouldn't be too much of an issue anyway. But Titan and other things. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. We took out. We took out Lightning Bolt. Took out 4 Lightning Bolts, brought in 3 Ratchet Bombs and 1 Elixir. Yeah, that's pretty much what the game plan was here. And I endorse that. The Pyrite Spellbomb is mostly used for cycling, but we actually do like having all the cycling we can get. And yeah, let's go. Yeah, this hand's an obvious keeper. We can turn to Cleansing Wildfire. Yeah. Now we may actually want to play this Ratchet Bomb. One of the reasons we brought it in, actually, I forgot to mention, is actually to be able to deal with Amulet. Of course, this is an Amulet. Yeah. I guess that was a little too tempting. That Simic Growth Chamber, keeping them 1 less mana. Yeah, I'm probably gonna play this Ratchet Bomb. Oh, never mind. Yeah, I guess I'm going for the Field of Ruins. They haven't presented an Amulet yet, so it's not necessarily do or die on that yet. Surprised we got. Oh yeah. We actually ditched the Ratchet Bomb, didn't we? I mean, I guess so. You know what? I mean, in retrospect, like Amulet is actually one of the biggest things we have to worry about, but at the same time, I might have been a little newer to this matchup at the time. But yeah, I'm gonna return Besage, why wouldn't they? There we go. Yeah, obviously we can kill this fairly easily, so there's that. And we're just getting kind of color screwed here, dude. Kind of annoying, but hey, we still might be able to take this down. Their color situation seems to be not like not their greatest of ideals either. You know, this was a mistake. I should have flame slash first. Is what it is. I doubt that they're gonna have enough time to collect all their crew tokens. You know, in retrospect, actually playing that Seasoned Pyromancer out turned out actually to be the better play. I knew what I was doing better at the time because because having this clock, especially when we're not necessarily drawing a bunch of our you know, what do you call it, Field of Ruin effects. Now they do have Titan mana. Yeah, let's get rid of those two. Okay, so we can live to next turn. Yeah, and interestingly enough, yeah, you have to pay 4 next turn. Let's go get. Yep. Hit this thing, hit that, and yeah, and they scoop it up. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they were a little. I guess they must have drawn that Summoner's Pact off of the clue, because if not, why not go grab Titan? But Titan is not necessarily what it used to be when you got Unholy Heat, although being able to still grab 2 lands means that's probably what happened. They probably do that off of a clue. All right, but anyway, yeah, Titan actually quite a winnable matchup, actually, believe it or not. Even like main deck more often if we have the 12 strip mine type effects. Next game. All right, match 2, game 1, and looks like we're on the play. Always nice. So this hand is an obvious keep. We've got a Cycler. We've got Cleansing Wildfire. The Cycler also doubles as a removal spell if we need it to be. You can see actually this situation actually kind of goes to show the power of Pyrite Spellbomb, because like there could be situations where we need to hit a creature, like, you know, I don't know, a certain monkey, but there could also be situations where we just want to crack this to get to our 3rd land. Here we would much rather risk not hitting our 3rd land to be able to deal with Ragavan, but it's that flexibility from Pyrite Spellbomb, and we may end up just Unholy Heating here. I was thinking about it, but yeah, and because I am actually still looking to crack this Pyrite Spellbomb. Alright, that's fine. We have Fury, thankfully, even though we're going to have to take some card disadvantage. We can actually maybe land the Fable, though, so maybe this ends up working out. Yeah, we can just 1 Fable, because the other Fable is going to be somewhat hard to kind of to land. Unless they drop like another Ledger Shredder, draw a card or something, I'm going to be inclined, or Heaven Forbid of Murktide that's pumped somehow. Well, there's the Ledger Shredder, but they didn't pump it. But they did draw Ledger Shredder. I like the idea of Cleansing Wildfire. Oh, and they revealed Giganta. But if I remember correctly, I think I did a Cleansing Wildfire and a Mountain. Yeah, because we got to be able to hit our Flame Slash, which we did. Happy, joy. And then we're going to hit our other Fable. I think this is just a game where we try to win with just raw card advantage. We're going to hit the other Fable. Dragon Rage Channeler. Oh man, it just keeps getting better and better. Obviously, we're going to try to Fury. Now, if I remember correctly, they do actually... Yeah. Now, while this would normally be a bit of a blowout, I think they grow these both to 3/3s. The fact that I can still play Fury and deal with both of them, yeah, and they just scoop it up. Like, yeah. So, like, they sort of blew us out, but then we blew them out even harder. Yeah, alright, next game. Okay, match 2, game 2. Let's see how we sideboarded here. This looks to be some kind of Izzet Breach deck, most likely. Generally, if they're playing an Izzet looking deck that looks Murktide-like, except that they reveal Giganta, that's usually a clue that they're playing Breach rather than Murktide, because they can't play Murktide, actually, as long as they reveal Giganta. Yeah, believe it or not, we're taking out Cleansing Wildfire. They may or may not have Sagas. Some versions have, I've noticed, a skewed Saga. But, At the end of the day, well, we had to bring in the relics, so that was a pretty easy swap, and the rest I think it pretty much stays the same. But yeah, pretty much relics for Cleansing Wildfire, and the rest of the deck I think is pretty good. Pretty much expected to get us there most likely. Yeah, and this is a keep even though we're color screwed. This could end up badly if they have a Ragavan. Thankfully they don't, or at least not on turn 1. As long as we can get to turn 3, we can cash this Demolition Field in. Let me tell you though, if it wasn't for Fury, I don't think I could do this. I think Fury enables us, is one of the reasons why we can get away with playing only 12 mountains, because we have the ability to actually interact with 0 red sources, which is not something we always had the luxury to be able to do. Yeah, hitting the graveyard is still relevant without Murktide because of Izzet Breach? I mean, because of Underworld Breach. Yeah, they probably hit the Relic. That's fine, but we do end up getting to yeah, I guess that was a scoop of shame, most likely. It's weird. I don't remember this game playing out this way. It's so weird though. It's like, I don't know. I'm guessing that's a scoop of shame. Maybe this had to go. Who knows? All right, match 3, game 1. It's this hand. You could make the argument to mulligan because it has so many lands, but this is one of the advantages of playing a mid-range deck, because I feel like we can get away with playing with keeping hands like this. Whereas if this would burn, this would just be it. And one of the things, man, is if we can get enough value off of this Fury, it can all end up being okay in the end. And well, there's a 4 for, I mean, a 3 for 2 right there. I think this is going to be too and it looks like they're color screwed too, which is always yeah, I kind of want Seasoned Pyromancer, and yeah, hopefully we'll have better cards to pitch. They're mana screwed. Hit probably most of the mountains. Yep. There's Saga. Hit that thing. We'll probably just play the Seasoned Pyromancer. Oh no, we didn't. Oh yeah, there's Scoop. These are like these scoops of shame or something. Not shame, but scoop of like embarrassment that they got mana screwed, which is understandable. Getting mana screwed sucks. All right, match 3, game 2. So we sideboarded here. We obviously brought in the Ratchet Bombs. Yeah, and believe it or not, I brought out this Cleansing Wildfire. In retrospect, on the draw, I probably have to keep this to be able to hit an Urza Saga. Ratchet Bomb can deal with the Saga tokens. Like I said, they sometimes bring these effects in against us, so we can bring this in against them. But yeah, it was pretty obvious to bring in Ratchet Bomb. Let me think. Thing is, I like all the burn spells against a creature deck like this, but yeah, I don't know. This could be correct. That's the main issue, is what always to cut, and we have plenty of field effects anyway, so I can understand the logic here. This might be correct. Alrighty, had a bunch of this go. This was obviously a keepable hand. We got 2 lands, a cantrip, etc. And see, being able to cash in these Pyrite Spellbombs, man, I'm telling you, it's better than it looks. And the jungle starts. Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. Alright. Yeah, there we go. We're hitting on land drops. That is good. I might actually just hit the Spring Leaf. No. Oh yeah, I did it on the upkeep. They were gonna draw a card with Spear anyway. So a star anyway. There we go. And the Ratchet Bomb for later down the road, potentially. Man, this is gonna be a juicy Ratchet Bomb if we can actually get it off. Oh man, they're going nuts. Oh man, look at that. Oh man, they went a little nuts. But if we can weather the storm, we might be able to trade favorably. with them. That was pretty obvious to get rid of that. I think we're gonna have to play Ratchet Bomb. Yep. It's just too juicy once we can get this to 1. Oh no, that's gonna make it hard to weather the storm, isn't it? Wow, that's a lot of damage. But they don't seem to have a lot of red. If they don't have Galvanic Blast, then we'll see. Let's get rid of all that. Yeah. Well, this is what we call an efficient use of mana. That is what we call scary. Okay. Yep. Go down to 1. We want to be able to copy stuff. Hit that. Mishra's Desk. Oof. Oh wait. Man, I would have. Maybe I should have gotten Fear. No, because we had to deal with the Urza Saga. I gotcha. Yeah. We can copy the Goblin Shaman at end of turn. Yeah, or just we have to double block. No. Other way around. Oh no, I see it doesn't make a difference. They both would have traded, so okay. Well, now we have like infinite copies with the Kiki-Chikis. It's always nice. Oh man, they scooped. That is a good. We're definitely off to a good start in this league because this can be a tricky matchup, but and that's the power of Fury, man. And Fable's pretty freaking amazing in this matchup too. The filtering, the mana ramp, and once this card gets going, like the thing about Fable, man, is in some matchups it's kind of just a worse Seasoned Pyromancer, but there are some matchups where it's absolutely better than Seasoned Pyromancer, where they don't have a lot of removal, where they're not consistently able to remove that Shaman token, and they're not consistently able to deal with the reflection itself. This card just goes nuts, and this is one of those matchups. I mean, as you can see, they obviously can rush us pretty hard, but this card enables us to really turn the tables in the late game. So there is that. All right, match 4, game 1. Yeah, this is the very definition of a keepable hand. Yeah, general word of advice, we want to hold off on playing Urza Saga usually for as long as possible. There are some exceptions to that, but like other things being equal, we're kind of incentivized to do that because that gives us the widest range of. Yeah, when we're playing Tron now, unfortunately we don't have any Field or Ruin effects yet, but they're also kind of stumbling on getting to Tron. And here's us implementing like playing Urza Saga the last. Oh man, if we don't get a field effect right now, it's gonna suck. Oh man, ask and you shall receive, man. I tell you what, it always feels like that, doesn't it? Like I'm not even planning this. It just feels like I'm like, oh, we really need this right now, and then. But then again, these are the leagues that I'm getting the trophies in, right? So just letting you know, it's not like this always happens to me. I'm not like the biggest luck sack in the world. Believe me, I would be like probably whatever. Yeah, like these are the leagues I'm ultimately 5-1ing or getting. Yeah, these are the leagues where I'm uploading because they're good enough quality to upload. So it's not like I'm literally always hitting exactly what I need. And it's not like they're literally also always missing their good Tron payoffs, or they do. Now I think this is Walking Ballista if I'm not mistaken, and this is probably the least menacing. Yeah, this is literally the least menacing payoff card they could play, and so we continue to have amazing luck here. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Now I normally don't go after Urza's Tower, but since we already hit an Urza's Tower before, yeah, Pikachu has a very good explanation on his channel about why you always go for the non-tower lands first. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the last land that they tap is gonna be Urza's Tower, and if they have to fetch an Urza Tower, they can use it. If they don't, they don't. But yeah. See, there's just a lot of situations like here where we're just not really looking to. Yep. Yeah, they're obviously going to Oblivion Stone us, but it's worth it, I think. Alrighty. I'm surprised they're letting us loot. Like, what advantage do they gain by letting us loot like this, right? That's fine. And we're already at the point where they have no more basics to fetch, which I think are pretty good. Good spot to be in. Yep. Alrighty. Yeah, alright, well, we literally have all the basics in our, oh no, we got 12 in this version. Okay, boom. Yep. Oh man, oh yeah, let's do it. Go off to the forest, okay, that's fine. Alrighty. Yep. What is nice? What is nice? Right, yeah, and these research desks, man, as you can see, we're down to 16 cards in our deck. That's just how, that's the insane level of dig that we just got. Okay, so we're going to need to hit as many of their lands as possible, because we got to go under this. But thankfully, they're probably tracked with a Karn Liberated, and I forget what the other card in their hand is. But yep. Alrighty, Haywire Might, boom. Oh man, this is like such the definition of like a great Fury. Boom, 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 boom. Is that just lethal? Boom. All right, match 4, game 2. Let's see what we sideboarded here. Yeah, first time we bring in Flame Blitz, but this is definitely a matchup where Flame Blitz is going to be very good. Flame Blitz is for sure is for sure better than Flame Slash. So yeah, that's an obvious swap. But what else do we bring in? Now we brought in Relic. Now in retrospect, I've actually found that Unholy Heat is better, being able to tag one shot a Worm Coil Engine. You know, even though they get the 2 tokens, but being able to like one shot is pretty important. Being able to take 6 loyalty off of a Karn Liberated can be, you know, make or break. Being able to one-shot a Walking Ballista under some circumstances, like, you get the idea. But yeah, other than that, pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward, I think. We can definitely cut one Fury for one, what do you call it? Brittle Effigy. I actually think Fury is a little bit better, though, than Unholy Heat. Even though it doesn't one-shot a Worm Coil. It's mainly just, especially if you're playing Fable. Alright, yeah, that hand had no mana. So, yeah, we're gonna need these field effects, but, oh man, this ain't looking good. Yeah, if they just drop a Karn Liberated and start exiling our lands, that just might be it. I guess we can Lightning Bolt in response at least. I don't know why I didn't respond, I guess I was yielding. Oh no, that's why. I almost feel like cycling this would have been better. Alrighty, come on. Man, no field effects. And I really want my field effects. I really need my field effects. But as you can see, I mean, like a lot of their payoff cards are actually Planeswalkers other than Worm Coil Engine. So Flame Blitz actually turns out to be pretty darn good. Now, of course, if this is Erlamog, then that's just that. Yep, I think that's a scoop. That's a scoop. Brittle Effigy technically deals with it, but not when we're this short on mana. And not, yeah, they're gonna attack. 2 attacks, and yeah, we can't even win by the time we deck at that point. Alright, match 4, game 3, and I think this is pretty much the same sideboarding that we had just before. Oh no, except we brought in the Unholy Heats, like I said. We changed our mind because like we intuited what we just went over last match. But the relics are still in though. But I guess we prioritize the relics over the Furies. Anyway, interesting. I think I would leave the Furies in, but yeah, I agree. 4 Furies, 3 Unholy Heats. Take out 1 Unholy Heat for Brittle Effigy, and take out the Flame Slashes for the Flame Blitzes, and I agree. Give this takeaway. Yeah, this hand, there's not much more you can ask for. Yeah, and see, actually, by this time in the league, I've already intuited to lead off with this on a Mishra's Research Desk. I'm gonna give them a chance to craft. Oh, no, I'm gonna cycle one of these Flame Blitzes. That's the plan. Man, they've already missed a. So this gives us a perfect opportunity to deploy a Fable. Like if they're not threatening Tron by turn 3, we might as well start establishing a board presence. And what a board presence it is. Oh man. If only we had Blast Zone. Definitely looks like we're in good shape here. Yes, maximize our mana, I guess, this way. There we go. Alrighty. Attack. There's this tower. We do this during combat so that they we get to know what mana they used before. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Alrighty, that was pretty good. That was pretty fruitful, if I do say so myself. Ooh, Oblivion Stones. This could get interesting, but we can copy. Always nice. Okay, we're gonna get a field effect. We did, yay! And I think that's gonna be game, because we are threatening lethal next turn, I believe. Oh, no, actually, I guess not. They could. Yeah, I forgot they could just drop a mana. I guess they. Yeah, there we go. All right, fine. Fine, you win this time. Definitely Cleansing Wildfire. Suppose I didn't go for Fable. Yep, Fable time. Flame Blitz. Bam. Naturalize. Oh man. Okay, I guess we'll do this, and I think it's pretty close to lethal. Yeah, it is lethal, actually. And see, this is where the Pyrite Spellbombs come in handy. We get to finish them off. Oh man. There we go. All right. Match 5, game 1. That hand had no mana, so yep. And that's kind of what it comes down to a lot of times. A lot of times we can keep almost any hand that has enough mana that isn't like 7 lands or something. Good old Prowess. This is one of the most classic matchups. This is actually, I think, one of the matchups that inspired us to go more all in on the mid-range approach, as we really wanted to be able to intercept the Prowess creatures. So, yep. Ooh, too bad we don't have Fury yet. We could have gotten Urza Saga, but I did want to be mana efficient with the red mana, so. Yep, alright. Let's continue doing our thing. And Lava Darting Us. Lava Dart must be such a house again in a format with Dragon Rage Channeler and Ragavan, at least where you can use it for other purposes as well. Oh, here's your theory. Okay. Yeah, we have a healthy smorgasbord of removal, thankfully. We might actually force them to use their lava dart. We wanted to do this first because if they save it, we don't want them to also go to block. Oh man, yeah, and this is kind of it, I think. Pretty good. Oh man. All right. Oh man, that's a good one. All right, match 5, game 2. Let's see how we sideboarded. Yeah, actually, believe it or not, Fable, even though it kind of helped us sift through our deck a bit, that last one, Fable actually is, I think, quite cuttable for Relic, that's for sure. And I actually like Ratchet Bomb better than Cleansing Wildfire in this matchup for just helping dealing with the creatures. As you can see, if we pretty much deal with the creatures in a timely fashion, then we pretty much win. We don't necessarily need to strip mine them out of the game from that point onward. Um, so yeah, I mean, there are some matchups like Creativity where the strip mining actually kind of is the strategy. In this deck, it's incidental at best. So there you go. All right. Yeah, this hand is close. We're basically keeping this off of the back of Mishra's research test, but the fact that we also have a healthy dose of removal is pretty important too, because in this matchup we live or die by that in many ways. Yep, that's good. A lot of times a lot of times the main way they can win is by drawing like a bunch of mutagenic growths, and to have creatures to pump them up. So obviously mutagenic growth without creatures to pump it up, like what's the point? Yeah, we're just gonna do this. Again, believe it or not, a lot of times we're not actually focusing on making tokens with there's a Saga, but they're getting mana screwed, so I think this is pretty much just a wrap. Yeah. We're gonna downgrade them to just a blue mana. Alrighty. Okay. Okay. Alright, well that was something I guess they had to do. Uh, okay, well they didn't turn on the land. Always good sign. Man, we continue to churn through our deck. Always welcome. Man, they're just not drawing mana. I mean, not gonna lie, a good chunk of these matches actually in this league, our opponent gets funky hands, or like no Titan, no like Primeval Titan, or gets mana screwed. I mean, that obviously, that'll always help. That will always help. So you got to factor that in. Okay. I really don't know what more to say. Like, I mean, this is so riveting gameplay, right? Like, this Arid Misa, like, what's it gonna do next? Is it gonna like hop out and is it gonna like do a jump scare? Like, is it gonna turn into like the Slender Man or something? What is this? Yeah, like this is just so riveting, man. I guess the most riveting part is, are they gonna draw a second land? Let's see. Moment of truth. Moment of truth. Oh, it happened. We were waiting for this for so long. But yeah, it's pretty much over, I think. Yeah, and that is what we call a trophy, especially when the opponent gets mana screwed. It helps. Well, but in all honesty, I think this is a favorable matchup, although this is actually very winnable for them. I'd say we are to them very similar to what Burn is to us. Technically a bad matchup, but one that is very winnable, and so you can't let your guard down, if that makes sense. The same way I feel like Burn shouldn't let its guard down against us because we can absolutely steal games from them, and it's not necessarily super unusual to do so. The same way we can't let our guard down against them. Unlike some other mid-rangey decks, this deck's ability to really come out of the gates blazing really fast is absolutely something that can catch us if we're not ready for it. We have to prioritize hands with good removal. We can beat this deck, but there are going to be some occasions and some hands, some situations where they're just going to beat us, and it does happen sometimes. And yeah, this, again, I think this is, we are to them kind of what Burn is to us, in my humble opinion. Alrighty. All right, post-league wrap up, and hey, you got this far. So once again, I'm going to encourage you all to smash that like button if you were withholding until now because you wanted to see whether or not you really liked it or not. Well, I have to imagine you did if you got this far. So if you could remember to do that, man, that always makes such a big difference. The amount of subscribers also I got, I think I got like over 50 subscribers in the last like 2 weeks or something. So man, if you could subscribe too, if you like this, yeah, we're definitely growing quite the at quite the rate. I mean, it's obviously not like super, I get too ahead of myself, but I never thought I can't ask for much more, what can I say? In any case, man, this deck to say this deck has promise, I think is a bit of an understatement. Now, yes, like we did have to factor in with those matches, the opponent was getting very the opponent had kind of mana screwy and kind of funky hands. So we don't want to be like one of these oh, my deck beats everybody type of, we don't want to, I mean we could be like that, but now that I think about it, like why am I so obsessed with wanting to be like nuanced and not just immediately jump to conclusions? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I do still do that sometimes. I think any human being can't escape that to some extent, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'd be happier if I just if I was just like, yeah, yeah, like with the big number one, um, the big like football stadium number one hand thing, the giant hand, thing that you put on your hand with the number one on it. Well, whatever. I mean, I could be like that, but we got to factor in though that definitely the opponents were most of the decks we actually faced. The opponents were not at 100%, and we got to factor that in. That being said, like I said, to say that this deck has promise is quite the understatement. And you can't discount the fact that this did trophy as well. We did get that trophy. As for what cards, we would change, well, that segues into what has happened to the deck since. So here we go. Yeah, so we got this is pretty much how I've kind of modified the deck since. So going forward, I don't think I've trophied with this specific build yet, but I may upload similar leagues. Playing this version, as you can see, I'm 8-2 with it so far. I've been trying to track whenever I stick to an exact 75, which is pretty rare, but if I actually stick to the exact 75 for more than one league, I'm trying to record my win percentage with that exact 75. But lately I've just been like screw it, and if it's not the exact 75, I just restart it to 0-0 because at a certain point, like you can't necessarily. Yeah, you can't necessarily. It does. Yeah, it is a different deck. Like, I mean, obviously one card, but where do you draw the line? I just draw the line at one card. If it's the exact 75, then bam. So I've gone 4-1-2 leagues in a row. I think one league it was Burn that blocked me from the 5-0, and I think in another one it was Rhinos. Although I do think I beat Rhinos like once or twice with this deck as well. And this is actually one of the big reasons I think for pivoting to Geomancer's Gambit instead of Fable. As we could see against like Affinity, I'm not sure that I'd be able to win that in the same way without Fable. So there is that to consider. But on the other hand, I would not have been able to win some of the games I have against Rhinos without Geomancer's Gambit. And let me tell you, when you have 8 Field of Ruins, 4 Cleansing Wildfires, and 4 Geomancer's Gambits, they run out of basics real quick. And sometimes when a deck like Rhinos, it just fundamentally kind of out-card advantages you. And puts way more power on the battlefield way quicker than you. Sometimes, like, trying to juke them with a Ponza effect is the best way to go. And that pretty much does summarize. Oh yeah, and of course, like I said, I think taking out 4 mountains for 4 Shatter Skull Smashing is relatively free. And as you can see, I actually just caught one Ratchet Bomb to pretty much implement what I was saying in the deck tech, which is I think while Elixir of Immortality is a sweet card, I think splitting it up in its two component parts and just having like a dedicated hate card for mill. And by the way, I always like my hate cards to have a little utility somewhat in more than just one matchup. So I'm playing Kozilek Butcher Proof intentionally over Emrakul because believe it or not, there has been some matchups. There have been some occasions. I think it was like against like four color Omnath. I don't know that I would necessarily still do that with this 8-field build, but you're going to run into some matchups where the decks get super grindy, and believe it or not, 10 mana is very reachable in our deck, as we saw. So yeah, like we can actually cast this, and yeah, Emrakul basically can't. Like between all our field of ruining and stuff, like we might not ever before we deck. We might literally never hit 15 lands before we deck. Whereas hitting 10 lands is surprisingly doable and not necessarily something that is super rare in this deck. So yeah, and this is still a very solid card if we can hardcast it. So it's mostly for mill, but you know there are some, and you know, and obviously like the nice thing about having a big fatty like this is it's also the perfect kind of card that if you're going to play it as a one of, it kind of makes sense. You know, like it's just a card sitting in your deck that threatens to kind of be drawn at some point and just yeah, you know. And it's also just kind of better than Elixir of Mortality because, like, you know, if they mill it along the line, it just shuffles everything back. And like I said in the deck tech, we got Underworld Cookbook, which I do favor this over Shadow Spear against Burn. Shadow Spear obviously is kind of has more application and more matchups, but we almost never bring in Shadow Spear outside of Burn anyway, to be honest. But Underworld Cookbook is pretty solid. This card also has some utility outside of Burn theoretically as well because we can return like Furies and Seasoned Pyromancers to our hand. It is mostly for Burn though, admittedly, but oh yeah, this can also be good against Living End. Don't forget that being able to easily pitch your Seasoned Pyromancers and Furies early on, or in response to a Living End, there is some utility to be had there. I think I do like bringing one copy in against Living End. You know, look out for opportunities. There are decks, believe it or not, where this effect is very useful. But yeah, just being able to like churn out constant life gain tokens, where even if they set Master Smithereens the Underworld Cookbook, it doesn't negate the food token that can still gain you life. Unlike Shadow Spear, where you actually need the artifact to stick around to gain that life. This also the tokens juice the Urza Saga for what it's worth. I mean the Saga tokens. One thing I really like also is that you don't actually have to have any creatures in play to start gaining life, and that's important because with Shadow Spear there are going to be some occasions where you're not going to have a creature in play. I mean, yes, you always have an Urza Saga, but there's going to be some situations where, for example, you make an Urza Saga token in the turn, you have no other creatures, and then you got to make the decision: do I put Shadow Spear on an attack, or do I play another creature? Because like if they Searing Blaze you, for example, in response to equipping the Shadow Spear, like and you got no other creatures, and sometimes you don't have enough mana to both create another Saga token and equip the token that doesn't have Stomach Sickness. And in situations like that, where like you have to make a call between like equipping or playing another creature, it's just an unbelievable tempo blowout if they like Searing Blaze or even just Lightning Bolt in response to like you attacking or in response to you equipping, because like. I mean, they just bought so many turns, especially if it's Searing Blaze, and then you don't have to lose like damage output to actually stop that. And yeah, just fundamentally, Underworld Cookbook does not have that problem. Underworld Cookbook, you don't even need to make the Urza token. You can just start cranking out food tokens, even with 0 creatures on the battlefield. You can just every single turn discard a card from your hand, gain 3 life. Like eventually, it's gonna become too much for them when you just like. Ideally, having some kind of board presence would be important because obviously the longer the game goes, the more burn spells they will draw. But when you know Underworld Cookbook turns every single card in your hand into a life gain spell, yeah, it's actually not bad. Anyway, I think that yeah, this deck has promise. There you go. It's and obviously this is the modified version. This was the one we just trophied with, but I would make these minor changes, and I'm very satisfied. Even though I haven't trophied with this specific 75 after, like, why would I make changes if I trophied? The answer is I'm not results oriented. That's why, because just because, and again, you know, so those matches, so some of them opponent had funky hands. I feel like every time I won with this deck though, like for the I'd have to go over the matches again, But I think we were facing opponents' decks for the most part that were firing on at least more cylinders than the last league. And like when I feel like it counts more when we win, when we feel like our opponent is closer to being at their best. You know what I mean? Um, anyway, all right. Hope you all enjoyed. Oh yeah, and can't forget the old shout out. Thank you so much, Patrick, Westerman, Jules Varro, Kevin Rubach, Rowan Schoeneman, S. Robertson, Sophus Garrett, Erwin Lopez, Stanley Franks, Kyle Walters, Mark, Z. Cole Smith, Lucas Frank, Andrew Wass, and Michael Patton. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your support. Yeah, really, really appreciate it. And yeah, before I go, you know what you know what I'm gonna say. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's very much appreciated. And subscribe. Thank you very much. Yep, take care.